And here he is, a refuge,
What a word.
a refugee from the wrath of the most
about
powerful
David.
man in the land, and he's holed up with the 400 men described in 1 Samuel 22. And so now he sits down to write, and he writes the words which we've just read, and he describes how he feels. And I'm so grateful that he has done that, because it makes me feel better to read how David felt in that situation. He's very descriptive. He goes into great detail to describe the emotional feelings of being alone. I've read tons of literature on loneliness in preparation for these messages. I haven't read anything that comes close to the beauty of the language and the emotional overtones of David's description of what he felt. Let's trace through the experience of this man and his emotions. The first thing he says in verse 3 is that he is disoriented. He is disoriented. He says, "My spirit was overwhelmed within me." Like some fierce flood has rushed down upon him, and he can barely stand up against its might. Literally, what the phrase means is this, that his spirit is muffled upon him. When his way and his spirit is so wrapped up in trouble and gloom, his spirit is muffled within him. And it's a very picturesque phrase of his spirit trying to reach out and express himself, but even that is muffled and is overwhelmed. He's lost his way. He can't figure out what to do. He's totally disoriented. His powers of judgment are gone, and there he is. He goes on to say that not only is he disoriented, but he's deserted. Notice verse 4. "I looked on my right hand and beheld, but there was no man. Refuge failed me." In these lonely words, no man cared for my soul. Total abandonment, rejection, isolation. Hunted by Saul, abandoned by his friends, surrounded by the offscouring of the world, David was alone. Disoriented and deserted, he goes on to say that the result of those two things in his life caused depression. He was depressed. Verse 6, "I am brought very low." Literally, it means to go into a valley experience emotionally, to be brought down to the lowest ebb of human life. He now turns his thoughts of disorientation and desertion inward, and it begins to make an impact upon his own spirit, upon his own soul. He is depressed. All of his hope is gone. All of his joy is gone. He can't think about anything positive in the future. He is at the lowest point in his life. In the language of today, he has bottomed out. And he has no hope for the future. Listen to the words of defeat in verse 6. "Deliver me from my persecutors, for they are stronger than I." He's defeated. It's one thing to be depressed and to have some hope that one day things are going to get better. But David is down at his lowest point, and he sees no hope of it improving. He sees around him that all of those who are against him are stronger than he